Hi, I'm Kate Hahn with TV Guide Magazine and TV Insider, and we are talking about the very eventful episode 8 of YELLOWJACKETS, in the buzz on YELLOWJACKETS. And our guest today is Liv Hewson. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, as I said, a lot went on. This is the episode where it's a big turning point in both timelines, but in your character's timeline, the group decides we're going to have to kill and eat some of our own to be able to stay alive and to keep Lottie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What was your reaction when you read the script and you knew this was going to be the episode where they made that choice?
When we were filming the episode prior, and during the filming of the scene where Shauna beats Lottie as a sort of like exorcism of her grief around the death of her baby, in playing that scene, I realized that this is the moment where it sinks in for Van that we are going to start killing and eating each other. There was something about like the arrival of ritual violence that at the time I was like, oh, this is when it occurs to Van that it is inevitable that we are going to begin killing and eating each other. And then when we got the script for this episode, I was like, oh, right, okay, good. Like that is what's happening, and it's happening quite soon. Which was then further reinforced for me by the fact that Van takes a sort of like takes initiative in and around hunting and beginning to hunt and kill each other for sport. And that was a massive shift for me, and very, very interesting and very informative as to how I think about the character going forward.
Well, how do you think about her going forward? Because I wanted to ask why she was the one chosen to be, the holder of the deck of cards, the one to shuffle them, to one to hold up the Queen of Hearts.
I think because it was her idea. Like she's the person who comes to the group saying like, we are not in control of this. We are at the mercy of this place and the power in this place, and it is not up to us. And she presents those things to the group as facts. It's not a suggestion. It's not a question. She's not brainstorming. Like, she knows exactly what she thinks that the course of action will be, and she presents it to the group as though it's a given. So when we come back to the 90s timeline and we see her shuffling cards, I think she was given that job because it was her idea.
And then why was Shauna chosen as the one to do the killing?
Because she's the butcher. When they've been killing animals, Shauna's been the butcher. Shauna's been the person who's been trusted with the rationing of the meat and the literal cutting of the meat and the bleeding of the deer and the dividing of the bear. Like, Shauna is the butcher of the team. And there is a sort of like bleak logic that extends that being her job into the cannibalism they have to undertake.
Well, it's a brutal scene when Matt draws the card and everyone reacts with horror, but anticipation. It's a very confusing scene emotionally, I think, for a lot of the girls. Can you talk about shooting that scene? What was it like on set?
Well, we did a couple of days, I think, of pretty comprehensive stunt rehearsals for everything from the card being drawn to chasing her out of the cabin. That was like a very intensely choreographed stunt sequence by our amazing stunt team on this season, and they worked with us in groups and in pairs and as a team to really make sure that that ran smoothly and safely, and that everybody knew what they were doing, so that when time came to shoot that scene, we could do it in a way that was like quick and smooth and everybody on the same page and everybody safe. So it was filming that, it was quite logistical, because we were thinking about how to sell this punch, or like how to make sure we fall in the right place, how to like shove each other safely. It was quite technical. And then for me personally, like the emotional piece of it sort of took care of itself. And the focus was more on how to sell the fight. It was fun, honestly.
Well, you sold it.
Cool.
when they run out of the cabin, Van grabs that rebar that's been holding the cooking pot. What is going through Van's head? I've never seen her like this before.
Yeah. We as we were planning out how to shoot that sequence, people were given the opportunity to pick which weapon they ran out of the cabin with. So it was like, okay, there's this knife, there's this object, there's this stick, there's everybody decide which weapon you want to run out with, and then that will be the weapon that you carry for the rest of the episode. And I picked the rebar over the fire because it felt right. It felt right to me. Because I think there's sort of a twofold instinctive reaction to that, which is like, this works as a weapon. I can hit something with this, I can poke something with this, and also I can carry something back to the cabin on it if necessary. Pretty upsetting.
Well, Van's very pragmatic. She
sure
has
is.
in this whole episode from bringing in that belt. Maybe it has some protein.
Yes.
She's saying, we need to survive.
Yes. And that's what all of it's about now, is like enough of the hope, enough of the touchy-feely, enough of the crying, like enough. Like there is nothing else. Like the baby died, the rituals don't work, because we're not doing them correctly, because we're hoping for the wrong things, and this group is headed to a place of violence, and that is inevitable. So what are we even prevaricating around? Like, maybe we can eat this belt, maybe we can. It's just all about like practical decision making for her now. It's a real divorce from feeling, which is not sustainable. Obviously, feelings catch up with everybody, and they will catch up with her. But that's what Van's state was about this episode. It's practical.
Right. Well, you said they're not doing the rituals correctly. What do you mean? Or not hoping for the right thing?
I think that's what Van thinks. And it's like, it hasn't been working because it hasn't been what this place wants. Because what this place wants from us is violence, and we know that. And what are we doing here? It's enough of the deep breathing, enough of the praying. We know what's required of us. I know what's required of us, is how she's feeling.
Right. And it just intensifies as they chase Natalie. They start, I think Misty's the first one to howl, and they turn into almost this pack of wolves, which is, that's an animal. A wolf attacked Van in the first season, and now she's kind of turning into this pack animal.
Yeah. It's like, this place cannot be argued with. You can try to leave, you can try to reason with it, you can try to work your way around it, but you will fail. Like, this place has power over all of us, and is a part of us, and we are a part of it. And that is how we survive, is by giving into that.
So what was it like running and chasing and screaming? Tell me about shooting that. You guys, there are a lot of different shots that you had to get through. Talk about that shooting process for everybody.
Yeah. So it was a couple of different pieces. Running out of the cabin, us leaving the front yard of the cabin, that happened on a soundstage. And then the bit where we're running through a run of trees and Natalie kind of avoids us and we run past her, that was on location, fake snow, in a run of trees that they had set up a certain length for us to film and run through. And then arriving at the frozen lake on location, it's not a frozen lake. It is a big meadow that's then covered in ice and fake snow to look like a frozen lake, but it's grass. It's just grass with stuff on it. So it was a lot of running, but it was in pieces. So it was like, okay, one day is going to be just this bit in the trees, and one day is going to be the cabin, and then one day, or maybe the frozen lake was 2 days. I can't remember now. But so it was sort of split up. And again, like very technical, very piecey, and really interesting, really fascinating to piece together, and to watch how it was shot and how it was pieced together. I remember when we were filming like the final run up on the frozen lake that we do, like all of us would like have to go far away from camera to then run at it. So we would go far away from camera and then huddle our arms around each other and then scream really loudly in order to like get in the zone of then having to scream really loudly some more. It's a funny job, this show.
But I mean, that scene then had this twist that was so heartbreaking, because here was Javi finally uttering his first words and trying to save Natalie, and he falls through the ice, and they're like, no, don't save him.
Don't
That's
save him.
every instinct is to save him, but they don't. And Van is one of the characters just standing back, like with her game face on, like this is
really at that point in time is really burying any feeling about it, because she can't let herself get sad about it, because the wilderness has made a decision in her mind, like this is what is happening and I must deal with it. So any kind of horror or grief or regret that she feels is shoved all the way down, and then I'm sure it'll go away and she'll never have to deal with it again. But it's not easy for her. It's not simple for her, and it's not painless, but the difficulty and the pain are things that she feels as though she must bury and master in order to survive this place.
Now, were you there? I mean, Luciano obviously probably shot in a tank for part of this, but was he on set? Was there a scene where you were all together on set and his last day?
So Luciano was there with us when we shot at the frozen lake. But again, how I mentioned, it was like a meadow. So there was a pit dug in the meadow that was then filled with water for Luciano's stunt performer to then get into and pretend to drown in. And then so Luciano was there filming the bits where he's running and talking to Natalie. And then the stunt of Luciano in the water was done by a stunt performer. And then Luciano later did some work in a water tank, pretending to drown in a more structured environment. And the times where you see his face in the water, that's what you're seeing. So it's funny because it's like Luciano filmed Harvey's death over a period of like a number of days scattered throughout a couple of weeks. So we got to say kind of like a very sweet and long goodbye to him, where it was like, come back and die again tomorrow, then come back and die again next Tuesday. But he's so good and such a treat. And we were very sad to see him go.
Well, how will his death affect this group? He's been sort of like the little brother of all of them.
Yeah. And he's young. He's a kid. He's a kid and he died. And having to deal with that is no small thing for any of them.
Right. And they have to go back with his body to Travis.
His brother. Yeah.
Right. It's really heartbreaking to rewatch the circle scene where Javi breaks the circle and goes and hugs Travis when neither of them have received the card.
Yeah. And then they never see each other again.
Right. Well, in the present day timeline too, a lot of truths come out.
Mm-hmm.
And what was interesting, I thought, was Van, played by Lauren Ambrose, the adult.
Mm-hmm.
When Lottie says, let's all go to the sharing shack and talk, Van's like, I don't know. She's like the last one hanging back. So in your timeline, as you're saying, she's accepting this whole wilderness is in control.
Yeah.
By the modern day timeline, she's the last one who wants to take part in this. Can you talk about that?
I know. Well, I don't know. Obviously, I don't know anything, but I love, and I think it's so fascinating, and I can't wait to see why. In my bit, she's all in, and then in Lauren's bit, she's all out. So something, or perhaps a terrible number of somethings, have happened in the intervening 25 years to completely restructure the way that Van feels about any of this. And that's exciting. That's exciting to me.
Yeah, we can't wait to see more information on that. Mm-hmm. Well, Lauren Ambrose joined this season. Last year, a lot of your castmates were already working with the adult versions of their characters, but this was the first year for you. So tell me about your process with Lauren.
Well, it was cool. And Courtney and I talked about this a little bit too, because for the two of us, it's like, when we started playing these characters, we didn't have to like worry about matching anybody. We were just kind of doing our own thing. And then now we are the frame of reference for somebody else, which is cool and like really fascinating and like rewarding to see. And when Lauren came on, she and I like met, talked about Van, talked about how we were both feeling about it and like what the things that we both thought about her and what we wanted to do with her. And I just always wanted to know what Lauren felt like doing, because I think she's such an amazing actor. And to me, part of the like creative joy of an exercise like this, of sharing a character with somebody, is that you do have equal ownership of it. And like, man, I don't know what I'm going to be like 25 years in the future. Like I don't know what Van's going to be like 25 years in the future. What do you think? You tell me. I can tell you what I know about her now and what I think about her now, but it's part of the excitement of knowing that Van would survive was getting more of her. And now there are things about this character that that are like new to me, and I love that. I think that's the best.
Well, we also see a little bit of Van and Ty in this episode, and we see dark Ty. We see the two window panes where we see two different reflections of her. What's their relationship going to be like going forward, Ty and Van? They haven't always been on the same page in this wilderness world, but are they going to become a force to reckon with, the two of them?
I don't know. I will say that, like, over the course of season 2, I think there is a possibility of a real crack in the foundation for the two of them, which is that, like, Van spends so much of this season trying to get Taissa help, and Taissa won't take the help. Of course not, because it's not good help, but she won't take it. And I think Van eventually feels that she is out of options, out of options and out of resources. It's like, well, what can I do? What can I do? Nothing. Well, what is this then? If I can't help you, and I can't take care of you, and I can't protect you, and I can't keep you safe, then what am I doing? Then what is this even? What's going to happen to you? What's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to us? And I think there is I don't know how much to say, actually, but I don't know what the exact short-term future of that relationship is. But I'm excited to find out, and that's before we even get to those two reuniting in the present. But I mean, just for the aspect of that relationship that Jasmine and I play with, those kids might be in some trouble, I think.
They're in big trouble in a lot of ways. So have you and Jasmine changed the way you work together over the course of this season? Talk about, maybe, is there a scene between the two of you that you've shot for this season that was really key?
Oh, it's funny that you ask that, because we haven't changed the way we work together. Like, the way that Jasmine and I work together has always felt like very, like, intuitive and solid, and that has completely stayed the same. But in terms of, like, was there a scene where we discussed something specific? Like, sort of, like, because it's the conversation that Van and Taissa have in the immediate aftermath of Shauna losing the baby, where, like, Van says, like, I need to know why I'm still here. I think it's time we all woke up. You sort of see that something is falling apart for her. And then Taissa says a bunch of beautiful, lovely things to Van about Van and about how much she loves her. And then I said to Jasmine while we were filming that, God, it's funny. That's everything Van has wanted to hear from Taissa all season. And now it's not enough. It's not enough anymore. Like, it's so sad. It's so sad. But of course it is,
I mean, it was a very sad episode. And then, of course, the adult Yellowjackets are faced with this insane sounding choice from Lottie about, like, okay, one of us has to give ourselves back to the wilderness. One of us has to die.
Yeah,
or,
these are the things we must do.
Yeah. And again, you mentioned in that timeline, Van's like,
yeah, no, won't have a bar of it.
No, she doesn't want anything to do with it. I also did want to discuss something big that happened in this episode, and that is Coach Ben looks at Javi's drawings and he finds this underground lair that we've all been suspecting was there. When you read that in the script, were you really satisfied? Like, oh, finally we know, like, what's going on a little bit.
Here's how I feel about that, is that I am a little bit scared of caves. So my immediate concern was, like, guys, are you going to make us get in a bunch of caves? I got nervous. But it's fascinating and it's so interesting, and I truly know as much about that as the audience does. So I'm as excited as anyone else to see what's going on there.
Oh yeah, no, we're happy that we're finally getting into that space. Always worried about Coach Ben though.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's not looking good. for Coach Benjamin, I would say. I'm worried myself.
But Misty's definitely coming through in this crazy time.
Yeah, good for her. She's really hitting her stride.
It's the right word. It's the right world for Misty, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Anything else you want to share about shooting this? This has been a great chat. Anything else you want to share about shooting this particular episode?
This particular episode. It was nice to get outside again. So much of season 2, most of season 1 was out on location, and then most of season 2 wasn't, because it turns out it's easier to make fake snow than it is to worry about getting all of us to where the real snow is and then dealing with real snow. So it was very cool for me to get to do some location stuff again, particularly with like the frozen lake sequence, because there is something satisfying about actually having the sky above you and actually being surrounded by trees and like actually feeling the sense of being out in the middle of nowhere. Makes my job easier, and I like traveling. So that was good.
I did want to ask too, when you saw Courtney in that prosthetic makeup when Lottie's been horribly disfigured after this beating, what was it like to see her like that?
I remember her walking into the cast tent, and all of us having known that she was off, like having those special effects makeup pieces applied to her. It's like we knew that she was going to look injured. It was like, okay, Courtney's going to come in and she's going to look injured. And yet instinctively there is this immediate like nervous system reaction of like, oh my God, Courtney, like, are you all right? Like, are you like what happened to you? And it's so funny how your brain just reacts like that to the sight of somebody who looks like they're in pain. And then immediately it was like, can you see? Do you have enough water? Like, do you want to sit down? And she, of course, is like, guys, I'm fine. I'm wearing a bunch of fake injuries. Like, I'm okay. But all of us kicked into like caretaking mode immediately.
I did want to ask too, if you always drew the same cards in the beginning, did the writers assign you specific cards or did you choose them?
Yes. I'm so glad you asked. Yes, they did. They did assign us specific cards. The cards that we pull are in the script. And when we got there on the day and we were planning how to film it, it was like, okay, do we need those cards in order so the right people draw them? And the writers were like, yes, those are the cards we want you to draw. We want to make sure that those are the cards that you draw. Don't know what that's about, but that was on purpose.
Did it mean anything to you, that particular card?
I tried not to think about it too much, because in my mind, Van wouldn't be thinking about it too much. She would just be thinking like, that's not the queen. Okay. Like, I don't think it would have occurred to her. So I didn't spend much time on it myself either.
The one thing too about this episode was there were these tiny little bits of information that looked like Lottie might be psychic. When she was in the very beginning being taken care of by Misty, there's like, she sees a flash of, a knife at a throat. She sees a flash of someone drowning in the water. It seems like she might really be very powerful.
Who's to say? That's something this show does so well, is really plays with the kind of doubt that these characters would be having about the situation that they're in. Like, oh my God, is there something that Lottie is tapping into, or are we traumatized and hungry and desperate? And then it's funny to, like, in watching this show, wonder, oh my God, is Lottie tapped into something, or are these teenagers hungry and desperate? So like the plausible deniability of that is what's fascinating to me, and I understand that's the most frustrating thing I could possibly say, but that it's truly how I feel.
Yeah, I mean, Shauna has them too. When she's about to slit Nat's throat, she has a couple of really, I mean, look, we all watch the show frame by frame, let's be honest, and
yeah, right.
Those are some disturbing visions.
Yeah, I know. God, these poor kids.
But Van does say, hey, the blood, it's the hunger, that dripping sound that we've been hearing and that Ty finally hears. Van is very practical with that. She does say it's the hunger. She doesn't believe anything's there.
No, she doesn't. But she believes that they are starving, and that is enough. It's like, it's the hunger. Something must be done about the hunger, or we're all ruined,
And something is done about it.
I know.
Hey, thank you so much for speaking with me for the Buzz on Yellow Jackets. It's been really interesting to talk to you.
Thank you for having me.